This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by Appleseedinfo.org.
Through passage of same-sex marriage.
And I appreciate you folks being here. You know, it kind of reminds me of the situation that they faced on the Titanic in 1912, April 12th. This new ship that was bragged about and boasted about, you know, headed across the Atlantic trying to set a transatlantic sinkable. But there are things facing this nation if we don't get out and make our voice heard. We're in trouble. But I appreciate you folks being out here. I appreciate Ryan. I appreciate you guys. If we let this unravel, we are in trouble. These things prove out, and I appreciate the doctor that did so well showing from a secular point of view how that these things impact our secular society. And when you look at it and see how other nations have already done this, the Netherlands and other nations have done this, they found out that respect for traditional marriage has dropped. People aren't getting married anymore. All of a sudden, you've got all this rise in these births and unwed mothers having kids and stuff. I want to.
He just said the state should be out of it.
You know, people use that separation of church and state thing, but that was a letter that was Thomas Jefferson just wrote to a friend of his. But it was the government never was supposed to establish a religion. The government shall no way establish a religion or deny the assembling thereof. See, this is not government's business. This is the people's business. When marriage is not respected in its traditional sense, it affects...
That's because of you. So be evangelists. Third and finally, except everyone, it's a great day.
I'm standing here with Regina from New Hampshire, and actually, technically, I don't even know what your position is. Were you here to support this rally against the gay marriage law, or?
Oh yes, absolutely, yes. I believe that the Lord set the prototype for marriage in the book of Genesis, one man and one woman, and I firmly believe that I'm a religious person. I'm all for the family. I think the family unit is the cornerstone of our society, and I think all of this is a desire to destroy the family unit. If they can destroy...
Could you speak up just a little bit?
I think all of this, the gay, they call it gay, I call it a homosexual revolution. I think the intent is to destroy the family unit, and in doing so, they can destroy and rebuild society the way they want it, but we aren't going to let them do that. God isn't going to let them do that.
I guess one of my questions would be, how does this, is there something that specifically affects you, or how are they using force with this legislation?
I think the homosexual revolution has a very strong lobby, and I think they have entered into an unholy alliance with a lot of our politicians, and they are changing things that they frankly do not have a right to change.
But are they making you do anything that you didn't do before?
Yes, things are changing in our schools. People are taking their children out of schools because they don't want, for example, sex education in kindergarten being taught that it's all right to be attracted for males, to be attracted to males, and they're being taught this. In fact, in Helena, Montana, the school department there has decided that sex education is perfectly fine to be taught in kindergarten. But what they're teaching them is that it's all right for a man to like a man and a woman to like a woman. This
wouldn't
is out of the mainstream.
Wouldn't it be better to get the government out of schools and out of religion completely? Or?
Absolutely, because the churches and the people in the churches do not want this, because this is against God's law. Homosexuality is a sin. It is a sin against God. It is a sin against human nature. Even animals don't do what they want to do.
All right. Well, Regina, I much appreciate your time and your willingness to be candid with me.
Thank you very much, and God bless you.
All right. Standing here with Tim from New Hampshire, and you were telling me that you consider yourself a liberal/libertarian, or at least it's a liberal/libertarian position that you have. Tell me a little about that.
Well, I think marriage essentially should not be the government's business. If we were starting over from scratch, putting up the first government of the world, it wouldn't be, but it's pretty fairly entangled with government as it is, unfortunately. So the only reasonable course of government to take, I think, is to stay as far out of acting in people's marriages and relationships as possible. And I heard a lot today about how one group of people getting married would interfere with other people's right to get married. I simply don't believe that. I think it's a very private, personal issue, and no churches that don't choose to marry same-sex peoples or opposite race people or people of different faiths is required to do that, or can be required to do that by the law, by the Constitution. And neither should any be forbidden from doing so.
Isn't it interesting how, though, I think almost every side here is saying they want the government out of it to some extent. Is it possible that there's really actually two sides here, and that's the government and the people?
That means that we
there's...
But it's what they
I wouldn't put it quite that way. But the government is in the position of saying what marriage is, whether anyone likes it or not. And the speakers, the nom-speakers, were saying that the government should not recognize certain forms of marriage, and the pro-marriage equality folks are saying no, the government should not discriminate. And a lot of those people do say, or a fair number of them at any rate, do say that the government should not be involved in deciding who gets married. And that's what I'd like to see, but it's not likely to ever happen in actuality.
Well, we'll see. They said that Louis, the last king of France, was a mountain that would never be moved, and yet he was. Hopefully, the move will be different this time.
It's sort of a mountaintop removal.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, Tim.
Not all.
Where it says that couple has to bear children. Show me on that document.
I don't have to.
But because that information's not on the document. The only thing sacred as far as the state is concerned, with the state with a capital S, the government is concerned, is the $45 you have to pay to get your marriage license processed through the state.
It doesn't matter. They should not have the right to define marriage between a man and a man or a woman and a woman. They don't have that right. They just don't.
They don't have that right?
The state does not have the right to define a marriage between a man and a man and a woman.
But they have the right to define it as a man and a woman.
Yes, they do. Because they were given that right.
They were given that right?
Yes.
By whom?
By God.
Do you have the signed document showing, attesting to that?
Yes, I have a document.
That they were given that right?
Yes, I have a document.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
It's in my car.
Okay, George Burns signed it, John Denver. I got a document.
No, it's signed by God himself.
Okay, that's great. Awesome. Say we have the right to define marriage.
No, I'm saying that I have signed marriage. This is what you
I'm very set out right above the matrimony. And that's holy matrimony, which is a covenant that a couple enters between them and their God without interference from the state, from the city, from Congress.
The state's only right is to recognize that.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. And you have the right.
I beg
They
to
were
differ.
not given that right.
They were not given that right. So therefore, that right, if it's not specifically laid out in the Bible, then it's a right that can be done away with. Do you have the right to eat what you want?
Within reason.
Within reason?
Yes.
What do you mean?
I can't eat cyanide.
Yes, you can.
Physically, I can.
You can choose to.
I don't have the right to.
Sure you do.
No, I don't.
Absolutely you do.
No, I don't. I was never given that right. Not by the state, not by God, not by anybody. I was never given the right to eat cyanide. Just because I have the physical ability to do something does not mean I have the right to.
You have the right to do it. Do you have the right to put incandescent light bulbs in your home if you want?
Yes, I've been given that right.
Well, are rights given to you, or are you born with them?
We're born with them and they're given to us. They're one and the same. There is no difference.
That's a good question. You were citing something of a religious nature. Do you think that we should stone people for wearing clothes of mixed cloth?
No.
That's in the Bible. That's in the Bible.
That's a misinterpretation of the old law.
It is not a misinterpretation, because what you're saying, if it is a misinterpretation, and what you're interpreting is also a misinterpretation. Remember, the word marriage did not appear in the English language until the 1400s. Look that up.
Okay.
Okay? And it's derived from the Greek and the Latin. Okay? And as defined in the Bible, I think it was 13th century, maybe 14th century. And that's in the dictionary. And I looked this up.
The English language has no bearing on biblical concepts.
He quoted Noah Webster's definition of marriage. That's using the English language.
That's not, maybe using the English language, but that's not
and the
definitive.
other thing is that we need to take the Bible as it is, as a historical document written by man.
So that's a very New Hampshire style interaction taking place with good free debate, but not too much in the way of name calling or certainly no violence. And no police apparent on the scene, although one security officer, I'm not sure who he's working for.
A whole generation of founding fathers sacrificed their health, their futures, and in many cases their lives. For what? So you could be free. What are you doing with your freedoms? This is what the folks over at appleseedinfo.org are doing with theirs. They're preserving the history and marksmanship culture of 1776. And they're active in New Hampshire. See the video description for a list of upcoming events here, or visit appleseedinfo.org.